Hey everyone, this is LYS from Laddering Your Success, and you're listening to the LYS Podcast.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome one and all to EduSteps, the online mentoring podcast powered by Laddering Your Success. My name is LYS co-founder of Laddering Your Success, and I'm honored as always to be joined by my fellow co-founder and the LYS creator, Festus Amoye. Festus, how you doing today, brother?
Doing well, doing excellent, as a matter of fact. You know, my allergies are still getting cleared out. You know, it's that time of year for me anyway. But for the most part, doing great. Great to be here.
Right, awesome. Man, I'm praying for everyone getting caught with the dander, the pollen, the mold spores, all that stuff, man. Because we're hitting that time where everyone, and they said it's going to be a pretty crazy cicada season too. So if you see a huge, about 3-4 inch blob come flying at you, it's just a cicada, or you'll hear them. But either way, man, just glad you're getting better. We're blessed as always also to be joined once again by the future doctor of education, Jamark Crawford. Jamark, how are you today?
Hey, I'm happy to be here with you guys. Thank you, Pat.
Absolutely, man. Great to have you back as always, brother. So today we're going to be talking about the graduates of 2024. Okay. As we speak, thousands, maybe millions of students are walking across the stage to cheers and praise from fellow graduates, family, and friends. Not only are they moving across the stage physically, they're moving across the stage in life. One very important thing to remember for these kids graduating from high school and college is that many of them spent their freshman year at home virtually instead of in a physical place of learning. Today, we're going to be discussing how that affects students today and how they can find solutions to discovering themselves, okay? So what I want to do is I want to start out by talking about what's really lost when a student spends their freshman year virtually, right? We either had kids who were in school during this time, we had kids, we taught kids who were in school this time, we spoke with kids who were in school this time. During that time, I mean, we're basically in the heart of COVID, and you know, a lot of us just experience it from different perspectives and different ways. So I just wanted to kind of go quickly over what is really lost when a student spends their freshman year of high school or college virtually.
I think the first thing is socialization, right? And that's the thing that I think is so scary right now, because, you know, that's like a big buzzword in education. Oh, you know, they need socialization. And then when you look at where we're at as a society, it's like, do I want my kids socialized in this way? You know, and so when you look at COVID and you think, okay, you know, these kids spent pretty much 2.5, 3 years, depending on what district they went to, what part of the country they're in, those different types of things, you know, on lockdown, online learning, you know what I'm saying? While some, you know, I kind of put it this way, and I believe there's a blog on our website about this, is that to some people, COVID was actually paradise. It was, I get to stay home and eat ice cream. I get to, you know, just turn in my assignments. It might take me 45 minutes. I have a tutor to come in here and help me. You know, my parents or even the collective community has gotten together and hired tutors to go house to house to come in and, you know, all of the different types of things, or personal teachers for their subjects. And then you had another handful of students where COVID was one of the worst nightmares. They're pretty much on solitary confinement. You know, they're with lack of resources, lack of food, having to go to the school to get food. You know, nothing's wrong with those things. You know, just it was a totally different experience. If they didn't have access to food at the school, they did not have access to food at all. You know, I remember driving to work, and there was a church nearby that would basically, I think they would have food every week. The food bank would come over there every week, and this line was was literally a mile long, of cars just there at the food bank. And so it's like, you think about that and how that plays out on a child's mind and the opportunities that they miss out on. I think that's one of those things that when you talk about this graduating class, it's like that's what they knew as normal, for their high school experience. So
Yeah, and before we continue, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to that guy, that man, Power Hour, the one, the only, Daniel Hill. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope all is well with you today, brother.
Hey man, glad to be here, man, with the kings of America. You know what I'm saying?
So, Hill, we were just, essentially the class of 2024. Congratulations to the class of 2024. You probably went through the hardest 4-year period of any high school graduate, I would say, probably maybe since the 70s, around the Vietnam War, sometime around that time. We're really being honest. And so, we're praying for you. We love you. Just congratulations, because in this time, there's just so much. So we're kind of talking about what have our kids missed out, or what happens to you when you miss your freshman year of high school? What happens to you when you miss your freshman year of college and you're graduating right now?
I think getting the most out of their education could be stunted due to them having to be virtual. There's an increase of distractions. If they're in their comfort zone at home and they are supposed to be online, on the other end as the instructor, I can't really tell if they're paying attention to what we're doing or if they're watching YouTube in a different tab or whatever their interests may be. Also, the limited connection opportunities through virtual learning versus in the classroom where you can connect with other classmates and students and have genuine discussions on certain topics, versus on virtual. It's more challenging to make a connection with these individuals that's on a computer screen. And then also the lack of structure. If I'm at home, and chances are my parents have to work virtual as well, so they can't really pay attention to what I'm doing. So there's a lack of structure there. So maybe I'm not getting my assignments done in a timely manner, or maybe I might have fewer resources based on my socioeconomic status, so the things that other students can do based on their family's income, I might be limited to do certain things as well. Maybe I can't attend class every day because I have to share a laptop with my sibling. And now maybe this day she's go to class, and then the next day I go to class, and things of that nature. So those are some that came to my mind.
definitely agree with that. That's powerful, especially the part about sharing, hardware. You know what I mean? Like that's a big thing. Is like, when you're a parent of multiple children, and that's one of the things I think is so tough, especially inflation and things like that, is and Thomas Sowell actually talked about this in terms of economics, was that, when you're a parent of multiple children, you got two parents able to help out one child. Well, as soon as you go to two children, you got two parents, maybe they're getting, kind of part time each parent, but then as soon as you go to three children, now the amount of time spent with each child decreases. So when you throw that onto, hey, I got to get 3 laptops, and if a laptop is, $300 for, cheap one, that parent is spending 9 compared to, 3. And it all depends on the age range and stuff like that. But those are very, very, very important things that you brought up.
And all of that can affect student ranking, if they didn't get a good start in the 9th grade because of all of those things, which is distractions, limited connections, and lack of structure and limited resources. That can affect their student ranking by the time their 12th grade year, come, essentially, if they didn't get their act together.
Hey, LYS fam, it's Ole. Just wanted to take a quick break to let you know that even though the cost of college can be daunting, the LYS Scholarship Guide ebook can assist you in realizing your dreams. You can identify and apply for scholarships using the information, advice, and resources in our comprehensive guide. Also, we've provided a template for a successful scholarship essay to help you stand out from the crowd. Don't allow student loan debt to control you. Get your copy of the LYS Scholarship Guide ebook right away to take charge of your destiny. Simply go to lys.com/parents to get your copy today. Now let's get back to that fire conversation.
Man, that's powerful too. Let me ask this question. Hindsight being 2020, what do y'all think about like student ranking and stuff, and just stuff like that in general?
I feel like it's a I feel like for the students and families who are ignorant of how their system works, then they are not able to take advantage of it like other people who are on paper zoned to their school but have never set foot on campus and know how to manipulate the system to where, well, I don't actually go to this school, but because I'm zoned here and my ranking is up here, they're going to take my ranking and place it in the school. And so I'm just going to outnumber anybody anyway, and it makes me look good to where I get the perks of being ranked in this way. And I feel like, if I just being honest, Black and brown people, we're ignorant to the policies and the politics of how these things are set up and structured, to where we don't read about these things and we remain ignorant to how to use these systems to our favor, just as like finances and investing. If we never read books on this information to see how to use these systems that are in place to our advantage, then we can never get those opportunities, and we look and be like, well, hey, this valedictorian, I've never seen them before. Like, where did they come from? And by the time we want to investigate this stuff, oftentimes it's too late. It's too late. So my thing to all parents is read everything. Even if you're zoned to a school, read how these things work. Read the policies, how they select, the valedictorian, and etc. So we can make informed decisions to set our children up for success.
Man, you dropped some major sauce, some major bombs right there. Things that I have never even heard of, nor really considered. You know what I mean? Like, to me, when I look at like what number you graduated in your class, does that define success? To me, the answer is no, right? But does it define opportunity? The answer is 100% yes. And you think about that from a high school and college perspective. Certain students who are top 1%, for example, state of Texas, I believe it's still, if you're top 1%, you're pretty much almost guaranteed. You're guaranteed acceptance and a certain amount of scholarship to every college, every state college. Let me rephrase that: every state college in the state. If you're top 3%, I believe you're guaranteed acceptance only. If you're top 10%, I forgot exactly how it breaks down, but for every level you are down, you know what I mean, your opportunities are decreased. And I'm gonna say you're out the gate opportunities. And why do I say that? Because again, at LYS, we want every learner to leverage technology for lifelong learning. And so as we're talking about this topic, we don't want anybody to feel like, oh, well, I can't be successful because I didn't graduate top 10%. I graduated, I think I was like 60. I was like in the bottom, you know what I'm saying? I was like down there, you know what I mean? Like, and I remember looking at that thing, I was like, oh man, like, what does this even mean? And I've done okay for myself, because part of it is some of those people in that top percentile, they're used to using their academia and their thinking in there to get them in and through situations or in and out of situations. Whereas in that middle percentile, there's a certain level of tenacity that person has to have to just survive. And that's the thing, is like, success. Sometimes success in some situations can mean just living another day, right? But we want it to mean thriving. We want it to mean being able to empower and equip others. And you don't get there by simply, living another day, and so that's why these numbers matter. And as Dr. Crawford shared, soon to be Dr. Crawford shared, is, hey man, if you're a parent, you need to read those numbers. You need to read the policies. You need to understand why they matter, why it all counts.
Hey LYS fam, it's Ole once again. These days, many families are busy but want personalized attention. We at Laddering Your Success understand this dilemma and have created a unique approach to help guide you and your child with personal development tools to build a life of purpose. This intimate approach is helpful for those parents that feel the need to have a focused heart-to-heart conversation deciding on the next steps after high school. We provide individual post-secondary planning, virtual customized college and career counseling, and scholarship guidance and planning. Our one-on-one sessions are tailored to each individual student to maximize their potential in the post-secondary realm. With our guidance, your child will be able to make their dreams a reality. Don't wait. Simply go to lys.com/parents to get your copy today. Now let's get back to business on this podcast.
No, absolutely. I was at a community meeting and I said,
Pootie Tang movement right there, boy. I said, Pootie Tang live. Pootie Tang doing it.
Just froze in place, man.
Well, I didn't know all these numbers really mattered growing up, bro. I really didn't, because I was like, as long as I make it through, as long as I get the next point, as long as I save the right enough money, that's all that mattered to me. I didn't know it all meant like getting different scholarships and stuff, though. That's interesting.
But it doesn't just mean scholarships, though. It also means jobs. This is something that a lot of people don't. I kind of realized this because but because I got shown it later. So, for example, if you're talking about what they call Rhodes Scholars, or you're talking about basically Rhodes Scholars programs, just different kind of programs like that, they look at the top X percent. And as a matter of fact, let's go there so that we can empower those who watch. Those who watch YouTube, y'all gonna get a little bit extra than the people who just be online, but listen on Spotify. So when you look at a Rhodes Scholarship Program, okay, this is what they call Rhodes Scholar Program, right? This is basically where people get selected in order to go to Oxford, go study at Oxford, right? And I don't even think it's just, and now I need to look up a little bit more details on this, but basically, let's see. So basically it covers all of the course fees as well as an annual stipend, right? For academic year. So it'll pay all your living expenses and basically your whole entire living expenses to go to Oxford and study. So when they go through, they look at the selection criteria. And this is something that, again, a lot of us just don't know, right? They go through and they look at, let's see, your literary. Well, let me try to read these. Let me clean my glass a little bit. The literary and scholastic attainment, so academic excellence, which is basically your GPA. Energy to use one's talents to the full, demonstrated by mastering such areas as sports, music, debate, dance, theater, artistic pursuits, particularly where teamwork is involved. Truth, courage, devotion to duty, sympathy for and protection for the weak, kindliness, unselfishness, and fellowship. Moral force of character and instincts to lead and take interest in one's fellow beings. So this is huge because, again, if we're talking about dropping the academic excellence part, but we do everything else, we go to sports, we show up, we're the best one in our sport, but we don't look at the community aspect. We don't look at these other aspects and say, okay, how can we document that? How can we look at the policies of what does it look like documenting, my child's time spent, in the reading club, reading the kids that are of a lower grade level. What does it look like to actually document, going out and doing street cleanup and and those different types of things with the community. Because again, your city council person is probably has an email list where all of these things are, and we're just not really tapped in sometimes to those things, so we don't know when to show up. And a lot of times we look at it and say, man, that sounds like free work, instead of looking at it and saying, wait a second, especially when you're talking about freshman, sophomore, junior in high school, man, that could actually go towards scholarship attainment. So this is important stuff that we're talking about here.
Hey, Festus, since you brought up schools and everything, and here's a question been on my mind. Do you think it matters where you actually go to college? Because here's the thing. My mindset is like, at the end of the day, if like say how you brought up Oxford, right? And how you helped my niece out with telling her, hey, Alabama now don't matter. It's the same thing. Do you really think it matters? Because me, sometimes I'd be like, okay, this person went here and I went here, but we both teachers. You on mute, bro. Oh, he's not talking to me.
So it does not matter in terms of personal accomplishment, but it does matter in terms of opportunity. Let me let somebody else address it just a little bit, and I'll be right back.
So I feel like in general terms, when we're looking at education, we both will qualify for the same position for whatever job we're applying for. But I feel like depending on the employer and looking at their resume, it could it could have a bias or a preference for that particular employer. So in the general terms, do it really matter if you went to Yale or Harvard and I went to Sam Houston? No, but then I think depending on where we're applying, and when they look at that, if it comes down between them picking me and you, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, this person went to Harvard. Okay, Crawford went to Sam Houston. And let's say the person that's over the company or whatever went to Harvard as well. 9 times out of 10, they're probably going to go with you. But that's just like my thought on that particular case.
Because down here in Texas, I know if you go to like the Texas A&M of you, what's the other one? Longhorn. That's big. Like they wouldn't care about Harvard. They focus on the person from Texas. But that's what I'm saying. Does it matter? Like, cause some people go to school spend $200,000. Some people go to school like you told my niece, hey, go for free. Like, and when she gets out on the job level, she gonna be in the same. Like I had a homeboy. One went to Harvard and one went to Xavier. I think they both expensive, but at the end of the day, they both doctors. So it's like.
So that's kind of the point I was making, was in terms of accomplishment, it kind of almost doesn't matter where you went, right? Because if both people are teachers, they're both teachers. But in terms of opportunity, the answer is absolutely it matters where you go. And so, you see what I'm saying? So some people will say, oh, well, opportunity and accomplishment are one and the same. And I disagree with that, right? So, and what do I mean by that? Somebody will say, well, if you had this opportunity, that's the reason why you got all this other stuff done. And I would disagree with that. Now, again, a lot of people, especially right now, in this whole social bubble nonsense that's happening, where people are being politically correct, what they're trying to do is trying to steer towards equality of outcome instead of just having more opportunities for more people, right? To me, I think that's what really matters, right? And why do I say that? There are homeless people, and anybody who's actually gone out and truly served homeless will understand this. There are homeless people who are there by choice. And I know some people say, nah, never, because you have not gone out and truly served homeless people. There are a ton of them there because of mental health issues and just the family not being able to keep and maintain and sustain because they have some very serious mental health issues. But there are some people who no longer want to play the rat race game. They no longer want to be burdened by societal norms of like these different types of things, and they're totally fine with like, yo, nah, I'm just out here chilling. And so, because usually those of us who are not in that situation, tend to think, oh, poor them. You know, we don't really stop to ask them like, yo, what's going on today? Like, what got you here, or what happened to get you here? And don't get me wrong, there's 1,000 different ways somebody can find themselves in that situation, right? But typically, if a person is not in a crisis, meaning their house burned down or something like that, right? They're able to actually, you know, transition okay. You know what I'm saying? Now, don't get me wrong. I understand this whole thing of, oh man, well, what about cost of living and all that stuff? But let's say a person is making a okay salary. Let's say $35,000 a year. They could find a roommate. Now, some people say, "Oh, well, what's but what's wrong with a person having a roommate?" They could, you could have 3 or 4 siblings who's making $35,000, who says, "Hey, you know what? Let's get an apartment together." And my sibling's my roommate, right? So there's a bunch of different living situations that a person who doesn't have a high income can still live in. You know what I'm saying? And do okay. And I know I'm slightly getting off track regarding the question, but I think that the if you have 2 people who went to 2 different places, really, as long as they have similar opportunities, but a person who went to Harvard is going to have far more opportunities than a person who went to community college. It's just going to be the reality of it. But what they do with those opportunities is going to wholly and solely depend on them, because there's a lot of people who go to Harvard who are crackheads, full-fledged bona fide crackheads. This is not, you know what I'm saying? Some kind of arbitrary word, but these people smoke dope for real. And sadly, and this is the part that I think is really sad, is because they smoke dope with other people who go to Harvard, the opportunities that are before them say that, hey, look, this is cool, this is okay, because they got so much endowment and so much, hey, look, I'm at this group and I'm at that group and I'm at this group. But what you're seeing now is those companies, the Sequoia Capitals, the Citadels of the world. These are the companies that were funding these institutions, right? Funding those endowments. They're starting to say, wait a minute, hold up a second. Are we really funding people who don't actually have the best ethics, who don't actually have the best character? Now, a lot of it is centered also around ethnicity and stuff like that. That's a whole nother question, but I think this is a very complex question, and it could go a bunch of different ways, you know what I'm saying? But to me, I think outcome, it comes down to the individual person, you know what I'm saying? But it does give you a lot of exposure when you go to one of these top tier schools. So I'll pause on that.
Hey LYS fam, it's Ole. Thanks so much for listening to LYS. I just wanted to take a quick moment to talk to the parents. That's right, mom and dad. Parents, prepare your child for their best educational fit after high school with our comprehensive LYS Parents Guidebook. Our helpful guide includes a range of activities designed to help you better understand your child's unique gifts and abilities. Additionally, we provide valuable insights into the student loan debt crisis and offer practical tips on how to avoid accumulating large amounts of debt. Our ebook also includes a wealth of information on scholarships, grants, and payment exemptions that can help guide your child towards a bright and successful future. With our expert guidance, you can rest assured that your child is well prepared to make informed decisions about their education and career path. Don't let your child's future be in jeopardy. Invest in their future today by downloading the LYS Parents Guidebook. Simply go to lys.com/parents to get your copy today. Now let's get back to the show, because it's some good topics.
I think one of the things I thought about when that question was first posed was George Washington Carver. When you think about like one of the greatest botanists ever in the history of botany and agriculture, one of the first things, even since I was a little kid, is George Washington Carver and his work with the peanut, just a simple peanut. And did a really great biography on him. And he talked about his work when he was in Iowa and he became the first Black student to graduate there. And after he graduated, he stayed on and he did a bunch of great studies. And while he was doing these studies and just growing and being well known for his work, Booker T. Washington became the first president or provost of Tuskegee Institute, which eventually became the Tuskegee University. And he sent George Washington Carver a letter asking him to come and head the agricultural department at Tuskegee Institute. And he basically spent the remainder of his life at that university teaching young botanists and agriculturalists about agriculture and the work with the peanut. And if you go back and look at the list of all the amazing things that he discovered, just the peanut alone, right? It's insane, everything that he was able to do with that. And I say all that to say, I always think about your passion and your calling. One of the most important and valuable things I've learned is, sorry about that, guys.
Top things you learned and then cut out.
Are you recording? So one of the most important things I learned is your talent or your skill will make a way for you. So if you know what your passion is, if you know what you're called in, you can go to, I'm not going to say podunk you or clown you, but you can go to a relatively lesser known university or college or institute. And because of your passion and your zeal, you can create a way to where your skill will just create these opportunities for you. And I think, we all kind of hit these different nails on the head talking about network. I think we live here in Texas. And so, just understanding the bigger universities and just their access and their network, you got to understand it's numbers, right? When your average graduating class is maybe 12,000 students compared to a smaller school where the average graduating class is, 3,000, right? And it really depends because you got the UT school, but you also have SMU, whose nickname is Southern Millionaires University. So that means the average income of those families, right? Is going to be much larger. So there's a huge emphasis on network and things like that. But we hit it from every way, every perspective. Real quick, we did a wonderful, masterful job. Oh, sorry, Festus, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, you brought up something, and I wanted to throw in a scripture that I think is very helpful for those who do read scripture. Proverbs 22 and 29. Do you see a man skilled in his work? He will stand before kings. He will not stand before obscure men. Right. And this, I don't know what version this was. I just pulled it up real quick. But basically, that's what it says is that if you're very good at what you do, eventually it's your skill set is gonna bring you before people who are of high rank or who are official. Right now, this is the thing that I think we all need to clarify for ourselves is, does that mean I want to serve them or there? And that's, I think, one of the things that we're seeing in society is a certain level of classism. There are some people who, because hey man, I went to Harvard and I got in there, now they don't want to go back to the hood so much. And now the question is, should we blame them? Can we blame them? Because they got up and did something for themselves and kind of made a way, leveraged their academics. So I think that's a whole part two of this. Maybe we should look at part two later. But
Sure.
So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great point. I guess you bring up a very, very good point. Let's go ahead and end it here. Next week, what I want to do is I would love for us, actually, no, not next week, the week after that, because next week we have our next in-person event at the said institute. And so really, really excited about that. You'll be able to hear that or watch that, however you take in Laddering Your Success, our content. But next week, I want to continue and talk about the psychological effects. We've talked about the social, but I want to talk about how that social kind of leads to some of the psychological effects. And then we're going to talk about the 6 things that happens to every kid, the 6 things that you can do after high school, and how those things are affected or how they were affected because of COVID, right? So Thank you all so much for listening on this latest episode, let me say, of Edge of Steps. Please, if you have not, go to Spotify, go to Google Podcasts, go to wherever you take us in. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share it with a friend or 2 or 3 or 18. Give yourself a chance or opportunity to see how I threw that in there. Make sure you follow us. Just make sure you follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. Be sure to follow us. All right. Go ahead, Festus, hit us with the phrase that pays.
So listen. There are legitimate excuses for not going to college. There's no legitimate excuse for not getting an education. My name is Festus Moye. We got the upcoming soon Dr. Jamar Crawford. We got the Mr. Timothy Daniel Hill. And we also got Mr. Olayenka Sharonke, who's always in here doing this thing. See that pronunciation. I did it with the actual, that's how you support the Olayenka. But anyway, so yeah, so good to be here. Listen, hit that subscribe button, hit that share button. All right, y'all be blessed.
Oh, you're still there? Well, thank you so much for listening to the LYS Podcast.